Nielsen at the Healing Spa. I'm getting to interview Ambika Devi, who's written the book Lilith, the novel, and we're thrilled to have her here. In our background material, we see that she's dealing with 3 archetypes in world civilization: the feminine, the masculine, and the creation. So the book is named after its lead character, who's called Lilith. And does Lilith have an age going through this novel?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me here, Richard.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You just jumped right in. Right. Lilith begins in what is the present moment, which would be, by some aspects of the book, future. However, time is folding in on itself, kind of like a French seam on a good pair of jeans, or a well-folded burrito. This has been a concept energetically and mathematically that I've always held true, that there really is no such thing as time. So the book does time jump around. I've divided it into parts, but it's not distinct to a time period. Everything is in the now in the story, but indeed characters reminisce about the past, and there are sequential movements which could be confusing if you tried to make a linear map of the story.
Well, I think you'll give the scholars something to do as we're trying to figure out a linear map through the many decades in the future.
I think the ones who will go a little more nuts, or maybe not, is if it gets made into a movie.
Well,
but they'll just choose what they want and make their own timeline.
Right, exactly. So what I was really asking is, Lilith like a 30-year-old woman, a 20-year-old woman, aside from being an eternal woman?
I really did not distinctly clarify her age. I've given hints about her being young and hints about her being mature. So that is not something determined. She's a vibrant woman. We'll just call it that.
Well, a lot of novelists in their first novel, they tend to be autobiographical. So how much of your life overlays the life of Lilith? I mean, in your writing, it talks about a feisty gal in Philadelphia. Are you a feisty?
Well, I was born outside Philadelphia, and I did go to art school in Center City, and a great deal of the book, the stories that all the characters tell, are stories from my life. I also drew from stories of friends. So, but I see every character in the story as an aspect of myself, and there are dreams in the book. And as a person who's very, very interested in dreaming and interpreting dreams for clients and friends, I see everything in a very gestalt way. So everything in the story is an aspect of me.
Okay, I got that, or I'm getting that. I'm looking forward to getting more of the book. Lilith, the novel, being published by Inkwell Publishing House in the fall of 2013. So the myth of Lilith is that she was the first wife of Adam, and
That's correct.
You're drawing from that.
I am the Sumerian version.
Yeah, out of the.
I've always been interested.
And the myth is that she wanted, that she kept her equality, and because of keeping her equality, she had to leave Adam.
Yes.
So as Lilith is a strong feminine power charting her own course. That's a question.
Yes, and in the myth, she was taken out of the garden and placed on an island in the middle of a sea, and she was allowed to choose one thing from the garden, and she chose the tree of knowledge. And from it, she built a rocking chair, and she used parts of the tree to write the book of wisdom. And so those are all in the story.
Who's her love interest or interest?
Well, the name of the character is Donatello, also known as Don or Donnie, throughout the story. I drew a lot from someone from my past, and actually did get his blessing to use bits, and he's actually quite thrilled. He even said I could use his real name if I wanted. But I didn't use it. He is Don, but he has a different full name. And I used quite a lot from knowing him and also my perceptions of his family, but I fabricated quite a bit. It was more of an inspiration than a direct mapping or usage of facts.
Yeah, he's an inspiration that you studied art in Philadelphia. You just mentioned, and I've seen.
I did. I went to Philadelphia College of Art and got a bachelor's there. And now the school is called University of the Arts. In my story, I called it University of the Arts because that's the current name of the school. The neighborhood where we first meet Lilith and Don is called Bella Vista in South Philadelphia, and I did use that. I used a lot of very real architectural references, street names, real businesses that are there, and characters from my life when I lived there, and I told them all about it, and they're really excited about the story and that they're in it.
Well, I love to read a novel, like a mystery or whatever, that is set in Manhattan, set in San Francisco, and the restaurants are real restaurants, and I like to go to the real restaurants because I've read about the meal that's there in the ambiance of the restaurant. So if you're doing the same thing for South Philly, that's way cool. We'll look for,
Well, not just South Philly, because Lilith talks about some trips that she's taken, and the character is a psychic and a tarot card reader, just like me. And she talks about experiences that she had in New Orleans and also in Savannah. New Orleans, of course, Louisiana, and Savannah, Georgia. And there's a lot of mapping of those areas too, and psychic phenomena. So those that are into the kind of, I guess it's not vampire-y or super scary, but there is some paranormal bits in there. So that will satisfy that crowd, I hope.
You mentioned in your background material that you've been a relationship counselor, and you use the tarot as a symbol generator, and you use astrology as a symbol generator, but people are bringing real problems to you, and then those thousands of relationship counseling events have been built into this story.
Absolutely. Lilith has several different realms that we watch her in. One is in her relationship with Don, which in the book takes place in the course of one day. So they meet on the street and they go for a walk and they talk and they spend the whole day together. And if you've ever had one of those chance meetings with someone where you really click and you just have this delicious, endless conversation, that's what that thread in the story is. There's also Lilith, like we know in the Sumerian myth, on the island, but she's really not all alone on the island. She has two nature spirits who are a pair, a male and a female, and they are her teachers. They are guardian angels, or I use the Vedanta titles of Gandharva and Apsara for them. And so we meet them, and they give her wisdom teachings. And they together can watch into the stories that are taking place in Philadelphia. So they watch as if it's a movie and interact about it, and the nature spirits give her teachings. But as the story goes on, everything starts to converge. There's also a whole nother story, which I was inspired by the Fisher King, which is where the King Arthur stories come from. And so for those who love Harry Potter, there's a bit of that in my book also. There's an alchemist, and he has a talking parrot and an apprentice, and they're scrying, which is visioning into a cauldron, and they're watching a wounded warrior tale come to life, and some of the characters end up in there together. So everything starts to converge. Everything starts to relate. Meanwhile, I use the Inca myth of creation with the sun disk, the great waters, the great mother, and I also mirrored into that part of the story theory that I wrote about in my master's thesis about the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and the irresistible magnetic force of what we call Shakti, which brings them together irresistibly. So this is all in my story together. So it's my way to share philosophy from my master's thesis in a fun novel, because to read it in my thesis would probably snore most people to sleep quite quickly. But the way I wove this philosophy in and feed it to the reader is much more juicy and palatable.
And so, but even though this Donatello experience is one day, does it sort of like a film thread through the whole book, or is it just a chunk?
Sure does. Yes, it does. In the very beginning, when we meet him, it's a little bit into the book. We don't meet him right away, but we see something from his viewpoint, and then we see the same scenes again through her viewpoint. Then they converge. Then they spend a day together. And just like I think my viewpoint is, when women meet men, the women tend to do a lot of the talking. It's pretty rare in a meeting of a man and a woman that the man is the one doing all the talking. And so she's very talkative. But as a woman, imagining what the heck is going on inside of the heads of men, I have created a whole extra cast of characters inside of Don's head who all interact with each other and sometimes come out through his mouth.
In your background material, you said you know what's going on inside the heads of men, which...
Oh, no, I didn't say I know. I don't profess to know. This is my viewpoint of what I believe is going on inside the minds of men. And very humorous. My editor, when she first went through the book and gave me back all her notes, she actually thought it was hilarious. And I was so honored, because coming from a professional editor who reads book after book after book, for her to think that I was funny, that was pretty cool.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. And friends that over the course of time while I've been writing it, that I've been able to read out loud to, many of them have said to me, "Wow, this is so destined to be a movie now." I mean, that's really big, thoughts and wishes. But hey, who knows?
Why not?
That would be really, really cool.
Yeah. So right now it's you've done the manuscript, but the publishing is a little bit of a Kickstarter program. Would that be fair to say?
I'm using Inkwell Productions, and the owner, Nick Ligadakis, has been my writing coach for a decade.
Wow.
That's when we originally met, and I was originally writing a completely different book, but Lilith, this book, was born out of a chapter in that book. And when I showed up for a coaching session with him with the beginning of this Lilith story, he said, "This is it. This is what you need to be writing. Stop writing everything else and put everything into this." And so I did. And over the course of time, different things happened. I shelved it. I'm not one to push a project and try and get it done. And so I've let it materialize in its own time. The way it works is I finished the manuscript and handed it in. It was professionally edited, and then I was given hundreds of pages of notes that I had to then go back over. And I felt when he gave it to the editor, it was very premature, but it was quite a magical experience, because then what happened was it helped me really boost ahead to do the next rewrite. And there's been many, many rewrites. It is now sitting in line. There's a queue of books from the publishing house that are in line for typesetting, and it will go through copy editing and typesetting. And when it moves into that point, then we will develop a cover, so the artwork and all the little special things, because there's a few little graphics I want to use for chapter headings and section headings. And so all this pre-release buzz is my responsibility, because Inkwell Productions is a co-publishing house. So as much as I can invest in energy into the project, this helps move things along. So we work together in the marketing. There is indeed a marketing department, but that doesn't fully kick in until the manuscript is in typesetting. So it's up to me to create all this pre-buzz, and I'm so grateful to be doing this interview with you today to help me and assist me with that. Also, it is available in pre-sale. At my website, you can visit www.lilithnovel.com, and that will take you right to her page, and all the information about how to pre-order. The pre-order copies are going to be sent out numbered and signed with free shipping, and it's only $18 a copy. So every copy that's purchased is helping to defer the cost of paper and ink. It, of course, will be available on Kindle and Nook and all the electronic versions, iTunes, everywhere. And then I set off on book tours and signings. The cool thing is, because of what I do as a relationship counselor and a workshop leader, I intend to travel to cities and towns and conduct workshops as well as signings, so that I can maximize my time on the road.
Now, here I was clicking there. I've been told that it's better to get a signed copy that doesn't have a plate, that's signed on the book and dated, so that it makes it more valuable. I collect some first editions, and so and I
on you mean inside the book, and not on?
Well, a lot of books they have like a signing plate and they paste it in.
I
so
see.
Mine, I'm requesting when I didn't succeed in using. I lost my PayPal password, which is back alive. Passwords, they just ridiculous. So, but I want everybody to go to www.lilith, Lilith novel, novel.com and order the book. So, yeah, tell me about what Lilith looks like when she meets Don and what Don looks like when he meets Lilith.
Okay. When they first meet, they meet in a cheese store in Bella Vista, which is the Italian market of Philadelphia. And he's of Southern Italian descent. So he's got thick, dark, kind of floppy hair, and she's got kind of ropey, dark locks. I describe it as somewhere between waves and dreadlocks. So her hair's
yeah, I got
probably how mine was when I was younger, if I wasn't brushing it. And he's wearing a sweatshirt and jeans and a pair of sneakers, and she's wearing a pair of velvet Doc Martens style boots that have an image pattern on them that look like a Van Gogh painting. And she's wearing dark jeans and a chunky chenille sweater and rings on almost every finger.
Cool.
And a big medallion.
Yeah, so she's a good-looking young lady, and he's a handsome guy.
So
on your website, I've seen.
She's
yeah, go ahead.
She's definitely an alter ego
right.
of mine.
Right.
And by using the Sumerian myth, by drawing from that story of Lilith not succumbing or wanting to be controlled by Adam, the two later in the book end up in a little scuffle like that, but I don't want to give too much away.
Right.
Okay,
well,
Richard?
There's exciting things coming down, and it's not a simple relationship. It's you have pieces of art on your website that are and photographs that are very illustrative. I mean, I love the picture of the Turkish coffee, and I love the description of the Turkish coffee was cinnamon. What are those herbs again?
Cinnamon and cardamom.
Yeah.
I love those flavors. I don't drink coffee anymore. I used to, but I do drink teas and other beverages, warm beverages that I use those spices in. It's interesting because those Turkish spices are also the ones that are used in Indian chai, and I love that. Yeah, I'm a foodie, big time foodie, and any excuse to put food in front of people in words or actual plates is something that I love to do. I adored the book Like Water for Chocolate. I thought that was so cool that there was a recipe at the beginning of every chapter. It was just, I thought that was great. And Nick, my publisher, is a famous chef, so there you go. We love food, so it ended up there, and it's always it's a great way to show love.
Well, I love geography, like a city, like Philadelphia, and I love real restaurants and real meals and real drinks and real. Are there any music groups that are in your story?
No, there's no music group, but there's real restaurant. There's a couple real restaurants. One I'm pretty sure is still there in South Philadelphia. In Savannah, the part of the book that takes place in Savannah, it's. Have you ever been to Savannah?
No.
I will put up a little sniblet every week or so. I put up another little excerpt,
right,
and add to them so that it'll build up to the release of the book with images. And I went on a road trip last autumn to Savannah and Asheville, and looking for some inspiration for the book, and in Savannah, I found so much that there's quite a large portion in the book devoted to Savannah. And so I am hoping to be embraced by the city of Savannah, Georgia for book signings and touring, because I cited many places there. When I was there one day, I took a pedicab. That's one of the bicycle rickshaw cabs, and I hired the gentleman for a few hours because it was just such a gorgeous day, and we went around to different squares. That's what they call the different parks. And we got to talking about psychic ability, and then he wanted to test it and took me around to some different places. And so that whole bit is in the book. And I do have some really cool pictures of us from that day. So those will end up on the website and the Facebook page as well. Just so everybody knows, you can find the Facebook page the same way as the website. Just look for Lilith novel. And then some of the pictures that are up so far, I gathered, I harvested from the web of, the one is a very classic carving of Lilith. She's seen in history sometimes as an owl type spirit. She went through metamorphosis and story changes as per different cultures that utilized her in different ways to teach lessons. But I hope that I'm honoring her as the divine, powerful feminine. In some stories, she is seen as the serpent in the Adam and Eve story. So sometimes you'll see paintings or carvings of her where there'll be Adam and Eve, the tree of knowledge, and Lilith is wound around the tree as a serpent, but the front end of her is a human form female. So that's really interesting. There's all in the creation story bit. I also talked about trilobites, which some of the scientific schools believe were the beginning of humans. Some say they were star-seeded. So I used kind of a humorous way to bring them into the story.
Okay, here we'll pause for a second. Now we're back at it with Devi, Ambika Devi, the author of Lilith, and LilithTheNovel.com, and Lilith, not the novel, I'm sorry, LilithNovel.com, www.lilithnovel, and also on Facebook. And it's a very exciting exploration of the feminine archetype expressed through the Lilith myth, and the masculine archetype expressed through Donatello, Southern Italian gentleman who also must have some eternal attributes. There's a lot of sexuality tied up in the Adam and Eve and the temptation in the fall and the story of the fall. And it, even though it's the first, it's in the first chapter of the Bible and it should be the oldest, Genesis was written pretty recently, when Israel was in Babylon. It's about, so it incorporates all these Babylonian elements. Lilith does appear in Isaiah, and I can't find but and the Hebrew scholars are trying to make her into a devil, but where she occurs in Isaiah, like everything, it's almost like the Garden of Eden all over again, and they're talking about the owls are resting, and the starlings are resting, and they have enough food, and the Lilith is resting, and she's happy. It's really another picture of the Garden of Eden or good life. So we're just excited to see more and
yes.
to know more with these.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when you give women their power, everything rests. Everything's happy and peaceful.
Right, right. And you know, a lot of people in their lives have had this experience. I love that you've done this in Philadelphia between Don and Lilith, where we've met somebody and just had this magical romance. And a lot of times it's a shipboard romance, or it's something, and it has a beginning, it has an end, but it's with us the rest of our life. And then how nice to be able to go back through it through time travel. Now, when you were traveling in that city where you had all those psychic experiences with the pedal cab guy?
In Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. So he would take you up to a house and said, what vibes do you get from it? Or
Exactly. He said, do you want to see the most haunted house in Savannah? And I said, no, not really. And he said, why? And I said, well, actually, we were talking about New Orleans because I was staying at a B&B, and the owner was from New Orleans, and I was telling him about the beautiful gardens and the iron archways and gates that this gentleman had brought from Louisiana to Savannah, and how incredible the B&B was and the gardens. I was just loving it. And when I met George, the pedicab guy, who I called George in the story, he gave me his blessing. I got to talking about New Orleans with him, and he said his daddy was from there. And I told him, man, when I was there, I had the most amazing psychic experiences, and he wanted to hear all about them. And then after we talked about that, he said, do you want to see the most haunted house in Savannah? And I said, no, not really. And he proceeded to take me there anyway. So he said he flat out said he wanted to test me. So he did, and this is in the story. So I'm definitely not giving any of that away.
Oh, okay, something exciting. Yeah. You know, because there are a lot of people that have a lot of psychic ability, but most of it doesn't test because it's an event that happens for a specific time and place. You know, and you can't schedule Wednesday night at 7 p.m. to have a psychic event in front of a group of people.
Well, some of us can.
Well,
I mean, I've been working for a psychic hotline for a really long time. So, and then I've been doing consultations since I was a child. And I continue to. You can find me on Thumbtack or just find me on Facebook. But some people are born with it, and some people actually cultivate it and study. And the thing is, it's all a form of channeling the divine word, because that's what divination is. The word divination comes from divine. So when we can step out of our own way and move the ego out of the way and just let love flow, then the words can be healing and helpful, not just to the person that you're speaking with, but for the greater good of all, because every little event that occurs is for the greater good of all, for the evolution of the collective.
Well, Amy Ford, also known as Ambika Devi, thank you for your time. It's very exciting. Looking forward. You know how to sign mine. I'll send you an email. Maybe I'll send you a copy of the article to add value to the.
Well, when you order the books in pre-sale,
right,
it will be sent to me. I will take care of personally signing each copy, and then they will be sent to the individuals from there, and at no cost to the purchaser. So this is all on house.
Fabulous.
So these will indeed be collector's items, and you're just paying for the cost of the book, which is $18.
Yes, and I'm an early adopter, you know, so I'm giving it the imprimatur of my early adoption success.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very, very, very grateful, and it's such a pleasure to be talking about it with you today.
Well, thank you, and perhaps we'll design some other meetings where we make some recordings and focus on some other aspects of your very talented personality.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Namaste.
Shalom.